Castor oil is now presented as the cure-all, and that's a big mistake. So in this video, I will be talking about all the things that nobody really tells you about castor oil, especially on TikTok. I have a lot of followers on TikTok. That's really where I've spent the last 3 years educating consumers on healthier ways to attain beautiful skin. However, TikTok can shadow ban a lot of accounts that actually criticize other influencers or those that actually call attention to the truth. So there's a lot of censorship that's happening. So I'm coming here to share my honest opinion on castor oil. Follow me so you can get that real talk about not only castor oil, but a lot of other topics in beauty. If you don't know me, my name is Nadia Ben-Shakarun. I am a skincare certified. 28 years is how long I've spent in the beauty industry. I left corporate America to create the Beauty Doctrine, which is consumer centric. I think I'm the only person so far in the beauty industry that pretty much disregards all of the marketing tactics, going right to the bottom of things. So beauty is much simpler than a lot of people think, and good skin is attainable with very simple tactics. You don't need Botox, you don't need fillers, you don't need all these interventions that are being sold to you all over the internet. So we're gonna get down to the very basics and of course highlight the good as well as the bad in every ingredient and every method. Plug in your questions in the comments because I would love to create videos that will address your concerns. So back to castor oil. It is hailed as the cure-all, from pigmentation to wrinkles to curing cataract and everything. And yes, there is some truth to some of those things, but again, what a lot of people don't pay attention to is the side effects. So not everybody should be using castor oil for everything, as I see right now. Every consultation I do with my clients, they ask me about it. So let's get to what's real and what's not. Castor oil is derived from the seeds of Ricinus communis plant, a flowering shrub native to India, parts of Africa, and now cultivated everywhere in the world. Castor oil has been used for centuries in various cultures for medical or medicinal cosmetics and industrial purposes. Ancient Egyptians used castor oil in lamps and as a natural remedy for many ailments. It has been used in traditional medicine for treating constipation, so it's used as a laxative, and to stimulate labor due to its ability to cause uterine contractions. I actually tried this. My first child, who's now 21 years old, was overdue. So she was due in June, was not born till July, and I was miserable because I gained so much weight and it was just, very long pregnancy. And so I took castor oil. It didn't work for me personally. I didn't get any contractions. I ended up having to go to the hospital and get induced because she was really late. So that doesn't mean that it's not going to induce labor, but from my personal experience, what I can say is that it works for some people and not for others. The second use of castor oil is as a laxative. What I would say to that is please, 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 make sure to check with your medical practitioner. You need to find out what the root cause is for that constipation, because if you're not consuming fiber, if you're not properly hydrating, and now you're taking castor oil, you really are just damaging your internal organs. I don't see that there would be harm from it if it's every once in a while, there's some isolated issue. But if the root cause is your diet, that cannot be fixed with castor oil. You really need to fix your diet to get those regular bowel movements going. Now, as far as cosmetic use, you'll find castor oil in everything from lipsticks to lip glosses to eyeshadow to skincare, hair growth products. And the reason it's widely used is because it's very glossy, it's very viscous. And so by that I mean it's thick. So it has those properties where it can be an occlusive and it can be really high shine and it can be long lasting. For example, for the lip area, we have very, very thin skin, hardly any of the epidermis on there. And so you tend to lose water much faster. That's why we get like peeling lips. And that's why if you lick your lips as well, you tend to get chapped very quickly because we don't have that protective layer. And so the skin on the lips can truly benefit from a product with castor oil that can actually be sticky. So you want, it almost looks like, it looks and feels like glue. And so when you put it on, you're gonna get that really glossy finish that's gonna be a little bit more long lasting than other lip oils. And by the way, I don't see the harm in that. So that is a way that I would recommend using it. Although I love when castor oil is actually mixed with other ingredients versus used directly on the skin. The only instance where I actually have used castor oil directly on my hair actually, it was when my sister recommended using it as a hair gel instead of actual hair gels that are filled with toxins and drying alcohols and things like that. And so every once in a while, let's say I don't have access to styling products and I just wanted to slick my hair back when it's kind of messy, then I would use castor oil for that. So it works just like a hair gel, although it's really hard to get off the hair. It's hard to wash off, but that's a good natural option if you wanted a hair gel substitute. Again, because of that viscous and thick property of castor oil, it has the ability to reduce that transepidermal water loss, which can keep your skin hydrated. However, here's where the mistake happens. A lot of people think it's really great, it's really moisturizing, my skin looks shiny with it, so I'm just gonna use it as my go-to skincare. Just keep in mind, it has zero ability to hydrate your skin. So we have to really make sure to understand that distinction between hydration and moisture. Water hydrates the skin, so you still need a mist or a hyaluronic acid serum that has a lot of water in it, or a moisturizer that's really water-based, that's very light, it's going to go into the skin, and then you follow it with a castor oil product. Although I will get to it later, why I don't recommend using it day in and day out. So it's good for a limited amount of time as an occlusive to kind of trap that water and that hydration in the skin, but I just don't like it for long-term use. So bear with me, I will go through all of the benefits before I get to the side effects and the cautionary statements. Castor oil has antimicrobial properties, which makes it suitable for certain acne types. If you have certain like mild infections on the skin, like dandruff, for example, that could be beneficial if used within a dandruff formula. So if you find a dandruff shampoo, for example, that you use to massage your scalp with that has castor oil, that may deliver those benefits. Even though it's got those antimicrobial properties, I don't think they're powerful enough to be worth the clogging that you may get when you have acne. So I am okay with recommending it to my clients for dandruff, but not so much when it comes to acne, because acneic skin tends to have issues with congestion. And so I like to stay away from ingredients that tend to be viscous that may clog pores. We can get those antimicrobial benefits from other ingredients like tea tree oil. Castor oil contains this really powerful antioxidant that's not talked about very often in the skincare circles, and that's vitamin E. Vitamin E is phenomenal in helping stabilize oils. One thing to keep in mind, many oils out there, like rosehip oil, castor oil, they tend to be very fragile. They oxidize very quickly, and it's so important to understand oxidation versus antioxidation. We have to always try and keep that oxidation at bay. That's why we have to consume antioxidants and we have to apply them topically. But very often when we buy these big oils, like now people are looking on Amazon for all these castor oils, and so they come in large bottles, like half a liter. And so I want you to think about how long that it takes you to use that bottle. If you have an oil that is sitting on your shelf for more than 3 months, it's most likely oxidized. especially if it's not in a cool area, in a dark area. So let's say it comes in a clear bottle, or if you leave it open often. So any contact with air speeds up the oxidation. And so that's something to keep in mind. But with castor oil, the great thing is that it tends to have vitamin E built in. It's part of its molecular composition. And so that helps it kind of stabilize a bit longer, and also it helps it act as an antioxidant in the skin, as long as you're using a fresh one that's been protected, that's also just bottled in a small bottle. I never recommend oils in larger bottles because even with the vitamin E content, it can oxidize just sitting around. Castor oil has a ricinoleic acid, which tends to have some anti-inflammatory properties. I wouldn't rely on it. I wouldn't seek it out just for the anti-inflammatory properties, but it's just good to know that there is some mild anti-inflammatory factor there. I touched earlier on hair uses as far as being beneficial for dandruff. It's also great for stimulating hair growth. That's been established, of course, anecdotally, because a lot of people go in and start challenging me and other content creators about the fact that there are no studies. What we've got to understand that most studies are funded by special interests. So let's say big pharma, they want to create some type of drug that would make them millions or billions of dollars. They're going to pour millions into the science to prove that that drug is going to be beneficial, right? That it's going to be successful and it's going to, give a certain outcome, right? So there is always a special interest that's going to fund that study. And very often, a lot of money is poured into those types of studies when the end product can be patented. But when you have a product that's been used for centuries, that's abundant everywhere, who's going to fund those studies to prove efficacy or otherwise? Nobody's going to do that. And so that's why when it comes to a lot of these oils or these natural remedies, we cannot truly rely on science. The science, to me, as far as I'm concerned, when you look at, ancient civilizations, you have the science of Ayurveda, Chinese medicine. When you have something that's been used decade over decade, it's been passed down. So there's not a guy in a lab coat that's taking data down and tracking those things, but it is obvious that castor oil does have certain benefits. The issue today, though, is that everybody's looking for that magic wand. People want that quick solution. And then we have social media that amplifies all these messages. And so everyone just out of a sudden is jumping on the castor oil bandwagon thinking it's going to be the cure-all. And so that's where the mistakes happen. So we really need to be cautious, and we need to, because we lack that ancient wisdom. We tend to fall for that excitement and the magic and the promise of these incredible benefits, and forgetting that a lot of these influencers that go in and share that their lives changed because they use castor oil, just look down on the bottom of their video and you'll see that there is a link for you to purchase that product. So yes, they benefit. There is a huge monetary benefit from somebody just being super excited. So think of it as an ad. So it's really important to establish or try and distinguish what's truly an authentic review of an ingredient or product versus something that's just inflated to create revenue. So there is a big difference there. So back to the effects on hair. Castor oil can grow hair, but I really like it within a lighter formulation. For example, the one I use, it's actually a product that I developed. It has a blend of the 5 most powerful oils that have been used both, and there's some science behind them. There are certain studies around pumpkin seed oil, for example, around rosemary oil. It was actually proven by science that rosemary can be just as effective as minoxidil, for example. Castor oil is lacking the science behind it, but there is the anecdotal evidence, and then there are other oils within that formula. So I like that formula because it's really powerful. it's stable, but also it's not very viscous. So you get the benefits of the castor oil without the risk of having all of the hair follicles clogged up, because you don't want too many thick ingredients that are deposited into the follicle, because it's going to prevent that hair from growing. So anytime you're using these types of treatments, just make sure they're lighter enough or light enough for, you know, your scalp, as well as easy to wash off, and you don't want to leave them on too long. So when I use such a product, it's really just as a pre-shampoo mask. I would massage it in my scalp, leave it on for 20 to 30 minutes mask, and then shower. Now let's talk about why I'm not a huge fan of using castor oil every day consistently and pretty much all over, like a lot of people are doing right now. And that's because it is an allergenic oil. I myself have suffered a lot from allergies. I know what it's like to just wake up one day and be allergic to products. And for me personally, because I know 100%, because I've worked in the beauty industry my entire adult life, and I was exposed to so many, you know, skincare products and fragrance. I was in department stores 8 hours every single day. I used to be a market trainer, like touring different stores, and just spent most of my time there. And so because I was exposed to all of these, you know, toxic ingredients from fragrance, and of course slathering all these types of products on my face and body, my body just rejected it. You know, I had a severe immune response to a lot of ingredients. And so I don't want you to get there when you overuse an ingredient, especially when it has a potential to be an allergen. You might not know it. You could be using a product, you're happy with it, and then one day you get some type of redness or itching or irritation, and your body just refuses it. There is no rhyme or reason on how that happens, but when something has a potential to be an irritant, you want to watch how much you consume it. So it's the very same way that I look at castor oil. You probably have never heard me recommend almond oil either. Almond oil can be very beneficial, but because it has that potential to be an allergen, I hardly ever talk about it, because there are so many other phenomenal ingredients that don't carry that potential. And especially that, like when you start comparing ingredients, especially oils, many of them can deliver the same effect. So you can go with jojoba oil, for example. That is very moisturizing. That has vitamin E. It's got a lot of really protective antioxidant properties, moisturizing properties. So it can do everything that castor oil does, minus maybe stimulating hair growth, but without the potential for irritation. So we really have to be discerning and selective, and then also thinking about the long-term side effects. And I alluded to this earlier. One of the other reasons why I don't recommend it too much, it's because of its viscosity, the potential of clogging pores and hair follicles. So to me, it really isn't worth it. And now actually that there is so much hype around it, now there are videos, if you look them up, there are certain people that are now reporting side effects, you know, with issues with the eye, because you know, people were actually using it as eyedroppers. They're using it for eczema. There are some people that will say, my eczema disappeared because of the oil. It's not the castor oil that made your eczema disappear. It's the fact that you're now moisturizing and protecting the skin. And so people are not making that distinction. And so it's better to moisturize and protect the skin with an oil that doesn't have as much of as an allergenic effect as castor oil does. And please don't use it in your eyes. That can actually increase the potential of you having a sty. And basically a sty is a pimple inside the eye, because you can clog those tear ducts, and it's just not a sightly scene. It is not worth it. So here's the summary of my view on castor oil. I like to use it gently and mildly in combination with other ingredients every once in a while. It's not something that I would seek out to use every day. I would not touch the eye with it. It's great as a gloss. It's great as an occasional or hair gel maybe. It's also really good for medicinal properties. So those castor oil patches that they use for liver detox, I can see that there's some validity to that. I've spent so much time in comment sections when people are actually replying to castor oil videos and sharing their experiences. So I've seen more anecdotal feedback with regard to inflammation, detoxification and such. But as far as skincare and hair care, I would use with caution. I have another video that goes into more detail about castor oil, so I will link it up. If you have questions about this, or if there are other aspects that you want me to cover about castor oil, just let me know. I'm always happy to respond to all your questions. Until next time, be well, be safe, be beautiful. Take care.